Welcome back, squad. This is season 2. I'm your host, Yali Cristina, aka the co-captain. Be Yourself, Be Free is a podcast that started its first season featuring unique freelancers and business owners who weren't afraid to express themselves and show their true personality in their business. What's different in this season is that you're going to get to know me better on a personal level. The interviews aren't going away, they're just going to change a little bit. I'll have candid conversations occasionally with some of my closest virtual friends whom I've never met in person before, but who have helped many people transform their business or personal life. I want you to sit in on these conversations about my guests' personal and business journey so that you can hopefully be inspired. The goal in season 2 is to provide you with insight on what is possible in online business and to get to know me and vibe with me. That means that you're going to get more solo episodes. If it's your first time here, I'm Yali Cristina, the co-captain, most commonly known in the corporate world as a CEO. I'm the owner of a podcast production agency. I'm a multifaceted person. I'm a podcaster, course creator, and co-owner of a boxing gym. I'm a Texan living in America's finest city, San Diego, California. Welcome to Be Yourself, Be Free. Have a seat and enjoy the show. Hi, and welcome to the first episode of Be Yourself, Be Free, Season 2. I'm thrilled to have somebody here that is a podcaster as well. She is one of the co-hosts of Becoming Alpha. She's the co-founder of She Alpha. Jenny Ramirez is a Peruvian native who travels internationally to learn and develop concepts with women in business. Her company is based in Tampa Bay, and it focuses on empowerment and education for women leaders. She utilizes her skills to create collaborations aimed at achieving common goals and running successful business venues. Jenny proudly advocates for warriors with mental illness by sharing her own journey and empowers women struggling with self-confidence by teaching them how to tap into their inner alpha. Outside of business, you can find her breaking cultural barriers by traveling, dancing, mentoring, and collaborating with nonprofits to give back to the community.
Thank you, Yali. It's a
You're
pleasure to
welcome.
be here with you, girlfriend.
You prefer me to call you JenRa or
Yes,
JenRa?
I've adapted that new name and it's so fitting these days. So let's go for it.
I know that you like to travel a lot. You just came back to the States from Mexico, but before that, you were in South America going on like a tour. So, how did you even get confident? Like, let's start about that. Like, when did you start traveling by yourself?
Like my boyfriend would say, I'm kind of a gypsy, so something in those aspects. But honestly, it started during my marriage. While I was married, I learned that sometimes a lot of people don't match your vibe, and that's the thing. When you don't really know things about yourself, you don't really know how you're going to react to certain things, you don't know what you like, what you don't like. And I wanted to explore those aspects of myself. I wanted to learn who I was and who I uniquely wanted to be by myself because I have always been, and let's be honest here, a lot of women, including myself, go from relationship to relationship and we never really get to discover ourselves. So, and that's one thing that I wanted to do. So I picked up and I started purchasing tickets for myself, solo, 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 solo. And I started traveling to different places. My biggest trip that I did was when I went to Europe and I decided to country hop. And that was the first time that I did it by myself. And when I did that, I not only found different aspects of myself, but I felt such a sense of freedom, the kind of freedom that you can't get anywhere else, from exploring yourself, from getting to know your uniqueness and knowing how you like your coffee, how you like your eggs in the morning, what walks you want to take, what things you want to venture out to, what you want to explore. And you can only do that when you're by yourself. And that's how it all started.
Did you find what you were looking for?
Yes. I found
Yes.
myself. I found myself. It's really hard to say that these days because I've been talking about this lately, and I had to take that push. I had to take that lunge to just free myself and say, you know what? I'm just going to do it. But when I did do it, I ran into myself because I had to face some hard truths on my journey, right? And through traveling, I realized that there's a lot of things that I was uncomfortable with. I was uncomfortable having lunch by myself. I was uncomfortable exploring different streets by myself, not knowing the unknown. And through that process of learning those little things, I realized that maybe I had some unhealthy attachments that I needed to work on. So, going through this process of traveling by myself helped me realize that I needed to work on things by myself. And by working on those things, it led me to finding a different version of myself that I really love and enjoy these days.
Wow. Is that when you would say that you became an alpha, or were you already an alpha?
I think it's depending how you frame it, right? When it came to business and work, I feel like I've always been very headstrong, very focused, very determined. But when it came to my personal life, yes, I would say that that's when I really stepped into my inner alpha and said, "Oh, hear me roar. Here I am. I'm coming."
And were you ever afraid though? Like, did it ever hit you like, I just got all these tickets, I'm packing, I'm really doing this thing? Were you ever worried being out there by yourself? Were you ever concerned about your safety? Or did you worry about privilege, like, oh, I'm Latina traveling in Europe? Some women have expressed some fear to me via the DM, like when I used to travel solo too. They'd
Mhm.
say, "Oh my gosh, like how can you do that? Aren't you scared? Have you watched the movie Hostel?" Because I would stay in hostels. I'm like, I never even, I just like so naive. Like I never thought that I could get hurt. So
Yeah,
what was
no,
your
and I,
thing?
I don't I don't think it's a naiveness. I think it's like a version of ourselves that a lot of people don't really understand. For me, particularly, I would say that I never really felt like I was in harm's way. I don't know if this was because of the military and maybe I knew how to, do things to people in case I needed to. I don't know if it was like my hard experience that I had to like build myself through the process. And I grew up in a really rough neighborhood in Newark, New Jersey. I don't know if it was maybe the fact that, I used to get in fights all the time and I had to do this when I was younger. I don't know if it was my past traumas or the past experiences that I had that never clicked into my head to think, oh my God, this place could be dangerous.
Right.
Oh my
Same
God,
here.
you're going to go somewhere that you don't know. It just never clicked in my head to that extent. I always used to say, why not? Why wouldn't you do it? Why wouldn't you go? So it's a little bit different for me, I think.
Yeah, and same, like I thought too, I just want to explore. I want to see pretty places. I want to take pictures in these pretty places,
Mhm.
and I want to make new friendships. There's some friends that I still exchange gifts on Christmas and birthdays, and sometimes we'll send each other greeting cards, and it may sound corny to some people, but it's a wonderful experience, and we'll text through WhatsApp still. Did you make any friendships that you still keep in touch with?
Yes, I think that that's one of the best experiences that I've had traveling abroad. I've made such diverse friendships and I still connect with them. We're still very close. When I did my Europe trip, I made three great friends in each country that I visited, and we still connect till this day. And I can tell you that those experiences and those friendships are so different than the friendships that you make home because it's a different part of you. It's really hard to explain, but it's really nice and it's unique, and you know that somewhere out in the world somebody knows you. Somewhere out in the world you have somebody that you can visit.
True. Right. And I've had some of those friends visit here too in San Diego. And I'm lucky enough to live in a place that people love to come and visit. And so
I'm
it's
gonna be coming soon, Yali.
yes, do it, girl. Yes. Some people from where I'm from in Texas are like, oh, how could you move there? It's so expensive. Once again, I didn't think about that. I just thought it's pretty and people will be motivated to come see me here. Because if I live like in Laredo, Texas, where I'm from, who the hell's going to spend their dime to come see me down there?
Yeah, I don't know that I would come visit you in Texas.
Maybe like if I lived in Austin, Austin's pretty.
Yes, yes, that's true. On principle, I could not go to Texas, but Cali, girl, I'm there. Sign me up.
Yes, it's gorgeous. I wanted to ask, what advice would you give to a woman who wants to travel by themselves for the first time?
Don't think about it too much. Buy the ticket. Once you buy the ticket, research, 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 research. You want to know what you're going to be getting to. A lot of people love to explore just freely and not really have like a sense of what they're going to be doing there. I have found through the years in traveling that when I do look for the things that I actually want, I find little unique adventures in between. So it's always nice to kind of have like a sense of like, oh, I want to go see this place. And then through going to see that place, maybe you find a different adventure, but at least now you have a list and you don't feel as lost when you're there. The other piece of advice, and I'm going to say this again because of my experience, is understand the maps and the money system and how it works in that country. That's so crucial and it's so important when you're traveling abroad, but keep it simple.
I went to Europe, the only place I had
Mhm.
been before was Nicaragua and Mexico. And the pesos is like, oh yeah, 1,000 pesos is not that much money, right? And when
Yeah.
I went to Spain for the first time, my dumbass spent like 500 euros thinking it was like $50. Later on, when I met my now husband, he was like, you just spent 500 euros like it's nothing. Like, do you know that the people there make like 1,000 euros or 1,200 euros a month? And I was like,
Mhm.
oh, so yes, that's definitely like the best advice. Figure that out before you go.
That's absolutely right. And depending on which continent you go to, if you're going to be traveling lavishly or you're going to be somewhat broke. I mean, if you go to South America, for example, your money, your American dollar goes a long way. But then
Oh,
if you go to Europe, the euros, they're worth a lot more than the dollar. So you're going to be looking at practically the same thing, how much you would spend here in an expensive country.
yeah. And in South America, which one was your favorite? Brazil?
Brazil was my absolute favorite. If I can share one thing about Brazil is that it's so free there. It's so liberal. The people are so unique in the way that they're so welcoming and nobody really cares about judgment. Nobody really cares about judging you. They have their own liberties. I remember eating at this restaurant one day, and in the middle of the street, I live closer to the beach, but there was this 70-year-old guy just walking in his trunks. Barefoot walking towards the beach. Nobody turned around to look at him. Nobody, because it's normal, and it's so casual. And I just love that. I love the culture that was just so welcoming, so eager to connect with you, talk to you, learn more about you. It's a beautiful place to be.
Oh, that's so nice. I have a neighbor who's from Brazil. There was always something about her. As soon as she saw me, it's like, hi, how are you? So outgoing. So I can see how that reflects, like her country and culture reflects on how she is. So that
Mhm.
makes a lot of sense.
Yes,
So
it's beautiful.
So I wanted to spin the wheels in a different direction now, and I wanted to talk about your experience in the military. What age did you join, if you want to share? Some people are very, I'm not going to share that. But I want to know what triggered you to join and why did you choose the Army?
This journey with the military was really interesting, and I don't really talk about this a lot because it's one of those experiences I wouldn't say I'm very proud of. Not because of the military itself. I love the army,
Okay.
but my experience particularly and in the mindset that I was at when I went to the military. I was driving down one day and I was actually 19 years old. I was in North Carolina, and I remember driving. At the time I was married, and I saw this big sign that just said freedom. And I thought to myself, that's what I need. That's what I need. So I walked in the next day to a recruiter's office and I said, I don't know what you guys mean by that, but just sign me up. Sign me up because I want a part of that freedom. Now, obviously, if you're listening to this and you're in the military, you know that that means everything but that. But at the time, but at the time, it was just so appealing to me and I was excited. I was ready to just go in. I'm like, you know what? I want to serve my country. I want to do this. I want to do that. My husband at the time was also in the military already, so we were actually stationed there. And yeah, it just happened quickly. And in a week, I was being shipped off to basic training.
Oh
And
my God.
yeah.
That
Yeah,
happened so quickly.
I wasn't in the best place mentally, and I say that because I was having a lot of trouble with my marriage. I was struggling at the time with all sorts of emotions and not really knowing how to feel. I couldn't find a job in North Carolina. In Fayetteville is a very small town, Fort Bragg, if anybody knows that place, but it's a circle. it's a circle. You drive to one place to another, you end up in the same place. The people that are working there, the people that are working there have been there for decades. So unless somebody passes away, there's no chances of you getting a job. and and I was like, no, I was not born to be a housewife. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. You've been in the military, you know this, but a lot of people in the military are just different. You either fit in or you don't. And when you're a military spouse, you have to get into these little clubs and so forth. And I wasn't with it. I didn't want to be part of that club. I wanted to be part of the other side. I wanted to be the soldier. So that's what happened. And that's how I ended up in the military.
Wow. But was it an issue though? Like when you joined, was he also in the army or was he in another branch?
Nope, he was also in the army. It wasn't necessarily an issue until I got stationed because we would just not get stationed together. And they make you sign this. I'm not gonna talk about it here, but you know how they're supposed to like station you guys closely and so forth. That did not happen. So it was troublesome. It was troublesome
Oh,
for a while.
but maybe that was part of the initiative of gaining that freedom that you later
That freedom.
gained.
Exactly. You see, and that's how I looked at it. I'm like, you know what? This is a sign, clearly.
Yeah. That's crazy. I also joined at 19 and I was working three jobs. I had never shared this before, but I was heartbroken.
Yeah.
And I was like, screw this, screw that. Like, I'm just going to go
Mhm.
on and move on and see what happens, what's out there. And the place where I'm from, it was very much like if you don't know somebody that knows somebody, you ain't
Mhm.
getting nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was
Yeah.
like, man, screw that. I want more. Like, I want to go and have some opportunity. So I just joined, and here we are now. So,
Yeah, it's that sense of, I guess it's that sense of feeling stuck and then doing something that's more than you, like that feels like you're part of something that's bigger.
mhm. And the military felt a lot like trampoline. Like it really helped me to jump into the next chapter of my life. And
Hmm.
I still depend on them in a sense because I'm a disabled veteran. So it's
Hmm.
great to reap the rewards of the time that you gave them. And there's some jobs that won't give you that. Like you go work at like a fast food restaurant.
I
No, I
know,
just
no, I agree. I agree. The military comes with a lot of benefits. I mean, if I'm being honest, I really did enjoy the lifestyle. I love the idea that they take care of their people when it comes to finances, but I can't speak for everybody because not everybody has had that side of the coin.
true. Yeah. And did you ever have like a crazy experience you might want to share?
Basic training was not great for me. Basic training was not great for me. I actually ended up being sent on convalescence leave because I had what looked to be like a little bite on my finger. Okay. And my drill sergeant thought it was just a mosquito bite. But it happened to be that I caught some type of virus during training and my hand like became the size of a watermelon, or so it felt at one point. And you know how drill sergeants are at the time, they're trying to toughen you up, and I get that. And I was very rah, one of those soldiers that was like, I'm on my stuff. But I was like, I think I need to go get checked. They're like, really? You're gonna go get checked over a mosquito bite? And I'm like, okay, I'll ignore it. A week later, my hand is so big I can't even lift my weapon. So at this point, then I had to go to the doctors and so forth. I ended up getting surgery. They were really worried they were going to have to cut my finger or my hand because it had expanded at that point. It was very traumatizing. It was very traumatizing. After I had to have surgery, and after the surgery, I had to be in quarantine, which was not great either. So, yeah, it was an experience. It was definitely an experience, and and when I was there, I just thought to myself, I was like, this is not what I meant by freedom. This is not it.
I'm in quarantine now. Screw this. Wow. So did you have to get held back because you lost time due to your surgery?
Yes. Yes, I
So
actually
you
had to go. Yeah, so after I got my surgery, then I had to be quarantined for a while to make sure obviously it's not infectious. Then they put me on another, they don't people don't talk about this stuff, but they have like centers inside the bases where they sent me so that I can heal up. Um, I was probably there about 2 months before they released me, and I got sent home on convalescent leave so that I can get physical therapy because I couldn't even lift my hand. So that took a whole process of maybe about 6 months. I still have the scar. Viewers, if you could see this, you probably would, but I still have the scar in my finger. It's hilarious. Every time I look at it, I laugh now because I can't help it. But I was in the field. I had a little cut, and the orange sand, what do they even call that? You know when they're grilling you and you're getting smoked and you're on the sand and you're having a low crawl. Well, it created a lot of scrapes in my body because the sand kept going inside my uniform, and therefore I got holes on my elbow. It was a mess. And yeah, girl, but we're here. I still have my hands as fully functional, guys. Good news is that I had a great doctor, a great surgeon, so he worked his magic and it's all good. It's all groovy.
That's good because otherwise it would have been a little challenging. And but
Well, I
then
would have been
finally,
taken care of for life from what, if you look at it from a different point of view, they're like, well, military disability is a thing. So
yeah. Oh gosh. Hey, but it was legit. It was legit. Like it
I am
happened.
saying, yep.
Wow. But you were able to do your still like serve and all that after that, maybe like 2, 3 years or something.
So after a while, I went back and it just wasn't the same. I stayed a little bit longer, but my personal life took for a turn. So I did request for a discharge after a certain time. And to be honest with you, I kind of miss it. In a way, I kind of miss it.
Oh, yeah, I get it. I get it too. Sometimes I miss it. Yesterday, I was talking to my brother about that, and I was like, man, I saw some post about a friend that she's already a chief, and
Mm-hmm.
I could have probably been a senior chief by now because she joined a year after me. I'm like, God,
Mm-hmm.
I would have been retiring at 39, like in a couple of years.
Right, because
What?
it's only 20. We only have to put in 20 years.
I
So, I
know.
mean, imagine that. It's already been 11 years since I got into the military. So, I would have been already 11 years in, which would have only gave me 9 years left.
I know.
And we would have been retired off good, but it's okay. I always believe that things always pivot in a certain way because you require redirection, and that's exactly what that was for me. Afterwards, it kind of shifted me to be a better person. I'm more disciplined. I'm definitely more self-aware, and it's helped me a lot in business.
For sure. I think that if we wouldn't have had that experience, we wouldn't have
Mhm.
been able to be the women that we are today. I
Mhm.
know that if I would have probably finished community college like I was working on before I joined, I would have probably maybe still had like 2 jobs and
Mhm.
trying to get by and paying school debt and stuff. So it was very helpful for sure. And then did you end up going to school after?
I did. So I ended up going to school for finance, and I got my bachelor's and so forth. I think that I selected that career because in my mind it was just much easier. I'm like, oh, you know what? I want to make money, and that's going to make me money, and numbers come easy to me. So I'm going to do that. Later on, I realized that that's not something that I'm really passionate about, but I did go through with it. I did the whole career. I went to college. I got the corporate career. I got the job, the whole thing. I did the whole thing, and it was not enough for me. I decided that that was not the kind of life that I wanted to live. So I pivoted, and then I got into business.
Right. But you know what? Finance is like the best thing that you could have done because
Hmm.
people, if you understand your numbers, then at least you'll know where you're going. You can create goals and then the milestones to reach them. And it's just helpful, especially if you're in business with someone else or helping other
Hmm.
people with their businesses. It comes in handy because like right now I just hired a mentor in finance because I do not like numbers, and I learned that I am losing a lot of money in different areas of both of my
Mhm.
businesses because I've priced too low and I didn't value my time. So I'm pretty sure that that's not something that you struggle with.
That's true. That's true. No, I mean, there's definitely a lot of learning curves. And I would say that working in a corporation and then running your own business is completely different. You're not playing the same ball game anymore. When you go work for a corporation, it's much easier because you're pretty much hired to do one job. And within that job, you get the on site training. You kind of know your tasks and your roles, and what you do or you don't do. It affects that one small percentage of the business itself. But when you're running and operating your business, that's on a different level because now every decision that you make, it directly impacts your business.
Yes. And anyone else involved in it, or
Hmm.
even if you have a
Absolutely.
community like the community that you have, you make one
Yeah.
wrong turn, it's like, hey guys, I gotta take a break, I have to do this all over
Yeah,
again.
and you can't do that. Yeah, and that's and that's the thing. You can't do that, right? Especially when you're building a community. It's so much different. And you have to be open for change. I'm gonna say this, even with the finance piece. I feel like a lot of my education and my smarts comes from books, particularly, and street smarts. And I say that because I've been through the whole process of college. And if you ask me anything I learned in college, I could not tell you. I could not tell you.
It's a lot of theory.
Yeah, I could not tell you. I mean, I know what kind of loans I got to go to college, but I can't tell you what I actually like unique pieces from college that I learned that I am using now in business. Most of the things that I have learned are through books or through mentors or, through just going out there and trying to figure it out by myself to apply these things to business. But it is a learning curve. And like everybody else, you kind of have to make certain decisions. Some setbacks will happen, but then you pick yourself up and then you address it and you move on from there.
Right. I know that you transformed when you decided to travel and then when you
Mm.
decided to join the military. So, did you continue to transform after? So, like when you went to school and then now running your business and your podcast?
I would say that my biggest transformation came when I got divorced. That was my biggest transformation. And the reason for that is because, like I mentioned before, it allowed me that room, that flexibility to figure out different aspects of myself. It allowed me to be more self aware, to be more continuous in constant growth. So I kind of pushed myself harder because now, before it was all about dependency, it was about taking care of the things that I needed to for my family. I was in corporate, I was making good money, I had a house, I had the cars, I had all of these things, but it was just a sustainable process because you work to pay bills, right? You work to take care of your family. It was all very easy and it was all a system. But now, after the divorce, I kind of had to learn, well, how do I start a business? How do I run a business? How do I function without having that support from other people? How do I do it without my family? How do I do it without my friends? How do I go out there in the world to figure these parts out? So I think that honestly, my biggest flex was after my divorce because I had no choice but to figure it out. And I put myself in a situation where I constantly went out to seek guidance, went out to seek information, went out to learn more. So I think my authenticity really tapped in when I started operating these businesses. And I said, you know what, I want to do it in a certain way that's different. I want to do it in my way, but I also want to learn everything else that everybody has already done and learn from those mistakes and grow from them. I love this process and I love this aspect of where I am right now. But I think I'm constantly growing. I don't think that's ever going to stop.
No, for sure. You keep evolving, especially as
Mhm.
you start to grow in your business too, as your community begins to expand. It's definitely going to keep changing all the time. I know you run a lot of events and you hang out with a lot of women. Have you ever felt like you need to act a certain way to fit in, or do you feel like you've been able to be yourself?
That I have kept true to myself. I have always been myself. If anything, I feel like I've lost a lot of clients and I've lost a lot of businesses because of being myself. But I'm okay with that. I think that that's the one key that I'm proud of because when I was in corporations, I felt like I constantly needed to be somebody else to fit into the mold, to fit into the business, to do what was necessary of me. Whereas now operating these businesses, I get to make that decision because nobody else is holding my paycheck but myself. So it's a little bit different. But I think it comes with it. Whenever you are yourself, not everybody is going to be a fan of who you are. Not everybody's going to be comfortable in your surroundings. I feel like a lot of times I'm a little bit more intimidating because I'm more alpha, and I'm probably too much in people's faces whenever it comes like, oh my God, hey, I'm Jenny, I'm like, oh my God, no, that's too much. Tone it down. But it's a working process. I think that the right kind of people have been appearing more often than usual now in this phase of just being fully transparent.
Yeah, I love that. And as you may have heard in other places, like when you are your true authentic self, the ones that don't belong around you will simply fall off.
Exactly.
And then the ones that are attracted to that magnetic vibe, they just
Mhm.
come to you and hang out with you and love to be in your energy. And that's why I wanted to start this podcast too, because I want to emphasize that. And I want to inspire people and through these interviews for them to think, okay, it's okay to be myself. So
Mhm.
See, guys, this is like your permission slip. Like, just be yourself, okay? Because the right people will come by
Do
and
it.
stick with you for sure. So I've always admired you. I say always, but I've only known of you for about what, like a year and a half, ever since I heard you on your podcast. And I've always admired that confidence in your stories. You're like talking to people like if you're having a conversation. I mean, come on, we know that it's a camera. What do you think has helped you to achieve that confidence?
If I'm being completely transparent, I attribute a lot of my confidence now to the fact that I've gone through severe depression. A lot of people may not say that, but the reason why I want to share that with you today is because I think it takes a different level of yourself to really understand who you are and accept that version of yourself that you want to be and be okay with it.
Launch your podcast in a day. That's right. I'll be your podcast sidekick and launch your podcast in one day. You've probably been pondering on being the host of your podcast for way too long. You probably even have a microphone collecting dust somewhere. Let's launch your podcast in a day. Go to yalicristina.com, select the Pod in a Day tab, and fill out the form. Let's release that gold mine of audio into the world.
I think for a long time, I suppressed so many aspects of myself. Like, oh, maybe don't talk so loud. Oh, maybe don't be so opinionated. Maybe don't share this. Maybe don't do that. Maybe don't do this. And I constantly suppressed those aspects of myself that made me uniquely me. And it made me so sad. It depressed the hell out of me. And it's important to share this because I think a lot of people constantly feel suppressed. It's suppression after suppression after suppression, whether it's for your job and you feel like you can't be your fully authentic self, whether it's for your community and you feel like you can't showcase who you truly are because you won't be accepted. There's so many layers of yourself that you continue to peel every time you hold back that part of yourself. When I finally let go all of that, I felt so free. It was so liberating. And you've seen this even on my stories, even when I'm on social media and when I'm talking to people, I touch people in a different way. People connect with me in a different way because they know that one is the true me, and two, I'm being authentic from a different place. I'm authentic from a place that I've already been hurt. I've already been through so much. So now when I talk to people, it's from a place of healing. Because I've healed, I'm able to be this transparent. Because I've healed, I'm able to be this bold and this authentic and just raw and unfiltered. And I love that. And
I love
honestly, it drives so many good conversations. The conversations that you have with people are so unique when you can just be yourself.
Yeah, I love that. I love that answer. Is that why you started a podcast too? Because you felt so confident you wanted to share that with others?
Yes, I wanted people to really see that there's so many other women in the world that have walked different paths, different journeys, but somehow in the mix of their journeys, it brought them back. It brought them back to find themselves. And I guess you can hear this too. And you've been on the podcast. A lot of the women that come on the podcast, they have found their individuality through the things that they love to do. And when they speak, it's different. It's different because you're hearing their perspective on somebody that's recovered, healed, or processed, and they're ready. They stepped into their inner alpha and they're saying, hey, I'm going to take this on board and anybody can hear me roar because I'm ready. This is who I am and I'm okay with that and I'm proud of that.
I would say it's something that, in my case, is that something that I learned through also getting hurt and also through age. So for you youngster girls, don't think that, oh, I'm never going to reach that place. Like, I think maybe like in your late 20s, after falling and picking back up and going through some shit, that's when you actually get to find this newfound freedom that we all
Mhm.
seek. And I think that you need to know yourself in order to share yourself, because otherwise you're just holding back all these things that it's not going to allow you to progress in business or in friendships or relationships. So that's very helpful. And I also wanted to ask you about your book club. membership. I know right now you're talking about the 4 Hour Work Week, which is a really popular
Mhm.
book.
I love to read. I am obsessed. And yes, with the book club, it's very different. The reason why we wanted to create this book club is we wanted to make it unique in a way where you're not just reading these books. Like, how do you put them into action? And are you actually practicing the things that you're reading? Because it's really nice for you to read a book, a self help book, for example, that teaches you about being consistent. But after you're done reading that book, are you actually being consistent? Or did you just read all of those words and you're like, oh, okay, I'm going to just toss the book on my bookshelf now and never think about it again? So, with our book club, we are reading the 4 Hour Work Week right now, but each week that they have with the host, they are practicing the skill itself. So, they're practicing on how to get to that. If you're reading a 4 hour work week, don't you want to work 4 hours instead of just saying that you're thinking about working 4 hours? So, and that's the skills. Every skill that we unlock through the book club, it's unique because we always have our members come back and tell us, oh my God, I can't believe I'm actually doing this. Oh my God, I can't believe I actually was able to learn and develop this thing. So it's really exciting. It's really exciting. And we're going to have actually future book clubs. The one that I'm working on right now, because the 4 hour work week already started, is a travel one, which I'm excited about. Yes. And the travel one, we're going to dive into like what it's like to be traveling alone and then help you set that up so that you have the confidence to get out there and actually start doing it yourself.
That is so good. I'm glad you're going to be doing that because that is going to empower so many women to that have been thinking about it, that think that they need to
Mhm.
travel with a man to be safe or carry some pepper spray or anything like that. Like that's so good. So you said a
Yes.
host. So it's not just hosted by you, correct? Who else is
And
involved?
we're actually right now in the process of interviewing and taking an application. So if anybody that's listening to this, you love to collaborate, you love to connect with people and love to read, this is a perfect opportunity for a side hustle as well. So we are looking for different hosts for the travel one that's coming up. We already have a host for that one. And it's actually that's in the travel industry, which is unique. So every experience is going to be tied to a host that specifically already works in that area. And then that way we can have all of the tips, all the unique adventures that you can possibly get into. It's exciting. But yes, so we have the host. The book club is for 6 weeks. During those 6 weeks, you practice that skill or you adventure out to the things that you want to do. And then you get to be part of a great community. All of the women in our community and our circles are so supportive of one another. I've actually seen how the community members, the book club previous members, communicate with each other. And it's just a beautiful thing to see that they're commenting on each other's posts, they're resharing their businesses. It's wonderful.
Wow, that sounds really good. Y'all need to get on this. If you hear this, I want to share this special offer that JenRa has for us. It is a 20% off the book club membership, and the code is YALI21, YALI 21. I experienced solo travel, and it's the most amazing and liberating thing you can experience. So get on it ASAP.
Yes.
I'll add it to the show notes. Take advantage of this, especially nowadays that we're able to do this online. Take advantage of it. In one of the courses that I took, there was a Telegram group where we get to chit chat, and it's been a year and a half since I took that course. Like before I got on this podcast today, we were just answering questions about how to use Pinterest to grow our businesses.
And Yali, you know this. When there's a will, there's a way. So
True,
let's get
right?
you back to traveling, girl.
I know.
Let's go.
I know. That is on the books. Like we have to go to Madrid next year. So as a fam, so I'm thrilled about that. Oh yes,
Yes.
I love flamenco. Hmm.
Take
Jen,
me with you. I'm coming in your luggage, girl. That's it. We're going together.
you come to Cali, I'll show you a whole new world, and then we'll go to
I'm
Madrid.
so ready for it. Yes.
Oh, girlfriend. Well, thank you so much for letting us listen to your beautiful voice. It was such a great experience having another podcaster here as a guest. And is there anything else that you want to share before we go?
Yali, thank you so much for having me. Yes, and for anybody that listened to me today, if you want to just connect and reach out and just have questions, don't hesitate to do so. You can find me on social media on Instagram at Live with JenRa. and connect with Chi Alpha. We love to support women entrepreneurs and business owners, so don't hesitate to reach out to us. And any friend of Christina is always a friend of ours.
Thank you. And then also tune in and look for her podcast with her co host, Laura. It's called Becoming Alpha. And it's a really great podcast. I've been following it since last year. There's so many women out there that you need to listen to. And I would suggest to start off with the episode with me. Episode 56 or the one with Andrea Valeria, especially that it's so fitting right now that the book club that's coming up, because you can learn how to work
Mhm.
remotely so that you can finance your travel.
Yes, yes, yes. So, girls, I can't wait to see you on the next trip.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank
Bye.
you.
That's it for this week's episode of Be Yourself and Be Free. Please share this episode with any of your friends that you think will benefit from it. Join me on Instagram. I just launched a dedicated profile for the podcast, and you can find it at Be Yourself, Be Free Podcast. And you'll notice that there's hardly any followers there because I just launched it. I wanted to dedicate this space for the listeners and to the podcast. So meet me there. Thank you. And don't forget to be yourself and be free.